Okay, we are live on YouTube.
All right, everybody, welcome to House Energy and Digital Infrastructure. It's Friday, May 16th. We are starting to look at an amendment to H319, which was not a bill that came through our committee, but the Senate has added some language that is relevant to our committee. So at some point, we're going to be expected to take a straw poll on it next week. And so we're going to start understanding the amendment and where it stands in the process. And so that's that. So I'm Rep. Kathleen James from Manchester.
Richard Bailey, 112.
Chris Morrow, Windsor, then South First, Caledonia, to Pittsburgh, Howland, Rockland, 4.
Eric Corey, Washington, 2.
Frank Lester, 13, Burlington.
Lawrence Billy, Washington, 2.
Scott Campbell, representative from St. Johnsbury.
Jack Locker, committee assistant.
Great. Committee System Extraordinaire, yes. And joining us in the room, Representative Lipsky.
Rep. Lipsky, Lamar LeBlanc. Irving.
Interested party. All right, for the record.
Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel. So yesterday, Senate Natural Resources voted out H319. They voted out draft 5.1. You have 4.6, but I did also send 5.1, and they made one change. So if you have 4.6 in front of you, that's fine, because they only made one change, and I'll explain it to you. But we're here to talk about Rygate. So I'm going to do an intro on Rygate because I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but there is a power plant called Rygate, located in the town of Rygate. It is a biomass facility that burns wood products to generate electricity. There is a special statute for Rygate. It is 30 VSA 8009. The text of that statute is posted under my name today if you'd like to look at it. And that's what the amendment is changing, is the text. So in 2011, the legislature added this statute to basically give Rygate its own power purchase agreement / form of standard offer. It put into statute that the PUC was to set a rate based on the factors established in the statute, the formula for avoided costs. And the utilities in the state, except for Burlington Electric Department, all have to purchase their pro rata share of Rygate's power. So all of Rygate's power is it's shared by the utilities of the state, and the utilities pay this rate to Rygate that the PUC established in 2011.
I'm sorry, Ellen, before you go on, I just want to make sure I'm staying up to speed. So Rygate has its own section of statute. There's a Rygate section.
Yes, it's called Baseload Renewable Power Portfolio Requirement, and Rygate is the baseload renewable power plant, because this is a biomass power is a form of baseload power, which means it can be generated 24/7, unlike wind or solar. And so it is a 24-hour available resource as opposed to some of the other types of renewable energy.
Okay, so since 2011, these are the laws that have guided Rygate, and I have not looked at the whole statute, I believe it.
Yeah.
Yet, but so that's where a pro rata rate was determined, and every utility has to buy its share of Rygate every year according to this statute.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
The exception being Burlington Electric Department does not have to purchase Rygate's power because they have their own biomass facility. So they've been exempted from the statute. That's McNeil. So McNeil does not have to comply with the statute because it is a utility-specific biomass facility. This statute in 2009 governs the only statewide biomass electric generation facility.
So maybe you can't answer this, but is it a 24/7 plant running around the clock?
Rygate?
Yeah.
Yes, except for they do take time off in the late summer to do the maintenance, but yes, otherwise generally it is.
Yeah, Rafael,
I think it's important to note that we have talked about the peak load. The base load is the other end. That the base load is as low as it ever goes, the smallest amount it ever goes to. Where we talk about peak, which is all the most it ever goes, when it's the biggest. This would hit one of the base loads, minimum demand on the electric system.
So, when the statute was created, it established that, the utilities would need to pay this power purchase agreement for the next 10 years. And so that ended in 2022. In 2022, Rygate wanted to keep this power purchase agreement because they do get paid a pretty good rate. So they were seeking to extend that rate. But there probably should be a new rate determination because a lot has changed since then. And so the legislature, in deciding to extend the power purchase agreement another 10 years, put requirements on Rygate for them to meet in order for them to keep getting the rate. There is a set of efficiency modifications that Rygate needs to do in order to keep getting this rate. And it sets out a timeline in subsection K of 8009 with dates by which Rygate needs to make improvements to the facility. There are a few reasons for this. One of the reasons is that biomass, electricity generated by biomass is quite inefficient, and this plant was constructed in 1990. And so the legislature, in seeking to give them what is a pretty decent rate for their electricity that they're generating, asked Rygate to increase the plant's overall efficiency by at least 50% relative to the prior year. So in order to do this, Rygate needs to construct a facility that utilizes the excess thermal heat generated at the plant for a beneficial purpose. So biomass electric generation is when you burn biomass. And so the result of that is a lot of thermal heat generated because it's combustion, there's heat that's released. And so the legislature asked Rygate to come up with a beneficial use that would, for that excess heat, that would make the plant more efficient. So subsection K established a timeline and deadlines by which Rygate needed to make improvements to the plant. And that is what is the subject of the amendment. Last year, Rygate came to the legislature and asked for the deadlines to be pushed back in the timeline, and the legislature granted that. And then this year as well, Rygate has come and said they cannot meet the deadlines and have asked for the deadlines to be pushed back again. So the deadlines are as follows, and they are in section 33 if you're looking at the draft.
okay,
So
everybody there?
So first, so there's one other part of this. Rygate has been receiving the same rate for the past 10 years, but that rate has been continued to be extended because it was decided that a new rate would be determined after Rygate made these efficiency upgrades. And so the statute sets up a number of dates for them to make efficiency upgrades, and then after which the PUC is required to do a new rate determination for the remainder of the power to purchase agreement. And so that is the first date in section 33. So section 33 D, on or before November 1, 2027, which is now becoming 2028, the PUC shall determine for the period beginning on November 1, 2028 and ending on 2032, the price to be paid to the plant. So this is still the statute still only gives Rygate the extension till 2032 at the latest. But this is saying now the rate determination, the earliest it would happen would be November 1, 2028.
Just make sure I'm getting that. Oh, sorry, Rich or Raphael.
I'm just curious, so the avoided cost, it's fixed,
The rate,
yes. So I just looked it up for my co-op, it's 9.66 cents per kilowatt hour.
the Rygate has its own rate.
Well, that's what the Rygate portion of our portfolio at Black is.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying it's the same every year? It stays
The
the same,
rate, yeah,
even though avoided cost might change.
yes, that's one of the issues here.
What is the rate?
It's 10 cents. So yes, I think there had been, I think there is interest in having a new rate set. But it would need to be based on what the facility is being updated to include with efficiency measures, and that still hasn't happened yet. So the date is being pushed back by which the PUC would need to do the rate determination.
But the end date is not being pushed out.
Correct.
So
So what has been happening is that the rate that was established in 2012 is still the rate that's being paid to Brigate, and that is being further extended. And a new rate is not going to be set until 2028, and that rate will then be in effect for approximately 4 years.
Rep. Southworth,
Has there been any fiscal determination, assuming that they're looking to lower that rate?
I don't know.
So if that is what they're looking to do, it's there.
So, yeah, can you, yeah, so say more.
This is looking to do is change the rate after the extension.
Mhm.
So if the PUC changes the rate, and if it's a downward rate rather than an upward rate or a level rate. Has there been any fiscal investigation on how that will affect?
Well,
affect the plan, you said, Rep. Southworth?
yes.
I can't hear you down there.
So,
Okay,
I don't think anyone knows yet if it would be a decrease. So, Rygate, I think, has said, I'm trying to be careful here, but they are interested in eventually having the new rate determination be done. There could be, inflation could be included. I don't know that it would be a downward, rate. But I think generally without this rate, if Rygate was not paid this rate by the utilities of the state, their option would be to either seek to make a power purchase agreement with a utility or a group of utilities, or offer their power on the market, which potentially would be lower than the rate they are getting now, which I think they have testified would jeopardize their operation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rep. Button,
My understanding that this plant has experienced meaningful financial distress lately. In fact, I think the bank took possession of it. However, I'm thinking that today's conversation is about a
Correct.
few days and
well,
not us trying to fix the Rygate plant. Is that?
Well, more importantly, what I wanted to say is today's conversation is to walk through the legislation with Ledge Council. And then we have Rygate, PUC, DPS, some wood forest folks, the Commissioner of Parks. So we have folks who I think are more appropriately suited to answer our policy questions or our background questions or our context questions than Ledge Council. So I don't like putting Ledge Council in that position. So let's try to stick to what's in the bill, even though I have a lot of questions too, and I'm really looking forward to our witnesses. But I want to make sure we're understanding what's in the actual language. Okay.
While we're here, I'm going to flag, I don't want to confuse you. In subsection D, there's actually a typo that is Lexus's typo. It is not. On line 18, or I'm sorry, the second November one that says 2026 currently. Last year, there was a 1-year extension passed, and Lexus did not update the statute. It's my fault for not catching it. But so if this language were not to pass, I would seek to do that as a technical correction so that it was reflected that it is November 1, 2027. That change was made. It should have been changed on both lines. It was not. It was only changed once. So that will get fixed, even if this language does not pass. But if it does, we can just fix it here. Okay, so then we get to the dates in subsection K. So the owner of the plant used to satisfy the baseload renewable power portfolio requirement, Reigate, shall cause the plant's overall efficiency to be increased by at least 50% relative to the 12-year period preceding July 1, 2022. In achieving this efficiency, the owner shall comply with the requirements of this subsection. On or before October 1, 2025, the owner of the plant shall submit to the PUC and the Department of Public Service two things: a signed contract providing for the construction of a facility at the plant that utilizes the excess thermal heat generated at the plant for a beneficial purpose. As used in the subdivision, beneficial purpose may include the displacement of fossil fuel for the sustainable production of a product or service, or more efficient or less costly generation of electricity. And they also have to have a certification by a qualified professional engineer that the construction of the facility shall meet the requirement of subdivision 1, the efficiency requirement. So this date had already passed, July 1, 2023, and Reigate did originally comply with that deadline. However, you will hear that their project has changed, and so they have new signed contracts to submit to the PUC and the department, and that is why they want this date changed as well. Next, and this is why this language here and the next subdivision are the reasons why this is at the legislature right now. On or before October 1, 2025, which is becoming 2026, the owner of the plant shall submit to the commission and the department a certification that the main components of the facility used to meet the efficiency requirement have been manufactured and that the construction plans for this facility have been completed. So there is an upcoming deadline of October 1, 2025. And subsection 4 goes on to say, if the contract and certification requirement are not submitted by their requirement, or if the certification is not submitted by October 1 of this year, then the obligation for each utility to purchase the pro rata share of the baseload renewable power portfolio shall cease on November 1, 2025. So this is one of the first drop dead dates. If Reigate was not to have complied with the requirements up to this point, their power purchase agreement would essentially cease on November 1 of this year. So the dates in this subsection are being pushed back again 1 year to line up with the rest of them.
So it's not, so according to this statute, it's not just that, they get slapped on the hand or or something. It's that the utilities would no longer be required to buy Reigate's power as of November.
Yes.
Okay. Rep. Pluckner.
Sorry, so lines 11 through 15. They don't do it by October 1st, 2025, or if they don't do it by October 1st, 2026.
So there's two different steps there, right? This is talking about subsection 2 and then subsection 3. Yeah, so subsection 2 is the contract for the construction and the engineering certification. And subsection 3 is certification that the main components have actually been constructed.
So they built it.
Not that they have built it. Just
Okay. Then I thought I knew what that meant, but I guess I don't.
no, it's a bit softer than that. So subdivision 3 says they have to have certification that the main components of the facility that will be used to meet the efficiency requirement have been manufactured, and that construction plans for the facility have been completed. Not that the facility itself has been
They said
completed.
the heat exchanger could be sitting in the factory in Germany where it was made. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying
Yes, and that was what was happening. Yes.
and that's an or, so both of those have to.
If they miss either of those, they fail.
Thank you.
And so this is the timeline that sets out requiring Brigate to make progress towards this efficiency goal, not just that eventually they meet the efficiency goal.
And if that happens, equally, it's not happening by that they can go out on the market.
They will have the ability to go out to market, but it is likely the rate they would be paid is less. And so then in subdivision 5, the next sort of stage is on or before September 1, 2026, becoming 2027. The department shall investigate and submit a recommendation to the commission on whether the plant has achieved the requirement, the efficiency requirement. So by then is when the facility has to be up and running enough that the department has the ability to investigate that it is meeting the efficiency. So it will have had to have been constructed before that, presumably for a few months.
I have a question about that.
Oh, sorry, Rep Campbell, up on the screen.
Yeah, so the implication is in this subsection, that the construction has been completed, but it doesn't say that.
Yes.
And I wonder if we should say that, if we're going to do this, if we should say that. In other words, add something about construction of the efficiency improvements shall have been completed, and the efficiency improvement required by subdivision 1 has been achieved.
What line are you on, Scott, or where are you?
Well, this is draft 4.6, and it's the bottom of page 66 into the top of page 67, the section that Ellen was just talking about. So the on or before September 2027, department shall investigate and submit a recommendation on whether the plan has achieved the requirement of subdivision 1 of this section. I guess I would add, probably in so I guess probably starting on line 21, the bottom of page 66. Shall investigate, I don't know, whether the construction of the efficiency improvements has been completed, and submit a recommendation to the commission on whether the plan has achieved the requirement of subdivision 1 of the subsection. Just being explicit about the construction having been completed.
Understood. Whose hand was up first, Rep Haley?
Thank the honorable representative for that recognition. Scott, do we actually care if construction's been completed if the plant has in fact achieved a 50% improvement in efficiency?
Well, how in the world would it achieve that if it hadn't completed the construction?
I don't know,
Yeah,
but some clever engineer figures out some clever thing and they get the efficiency improvement. Just, it is not an important question.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, this is admittedly a detail, but it is also I don't know. I feel like there's been a lot of kind of weaseling about this whole thing for years now, and so I'm just wanting to be very explicit about what the expectations are.
Understood.
Rep Haley?
Can we make amendments to this? We don't have possession of the funds.
An individual member would have to propose an amendment. We could handle that in committee. It doesn't have to be on the floor. But we can't, I think, just trying to channel what Betsy Ann said yesterday, we have lead counsel here. We can't
We don't have
walk
possession.
through or write up this. We can't just tinker with this language. We either vote to concur, or some or many of us bring an amendment that we then we can handle it in this room.
Yeah.
It would have to be in the form of an amendment.
We don't have possession of the bill, right?
Right.
Okay, all right, so maybe it's, unless we have other things to amend. Maybe this is immaterial.
Alrighty, Rep. Taylor?
Well, I guess my question was, if this, if this needs to proceed quickly, should we be asking of it, make it back to something that should be looked at when we're back on session? On the cell.
One thing I wanted to ask Ellen was, do you know if it has to go to Senate Finance? I'm trying to
It does.
figure out when this,
Yeah.
okay,
It won't be on the Senate floor until at least Tuesday.
great. So we have a little bit of time. It won't be on the Senate floor till Tuesday. That means message to us on Wednesday. No, what's that mean?
It would be up for third reading on Wednesday. It wouldn't be messaged until Friday. It could be Thursday if they got suspension.
Okay. So we have all next week. Is that what you're saying to go with this?
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're not. That's good. That's actually really good because the PUC and the DPS can't come in on Tuesday as we had asked. So, okay, onward we go.
So, still in subdivision 5, if the department recommends that the plant has not achieved the efficiency requirement, the obligation under this section shall cease on November 1, 2027. So, again, they have to get the efficiency up, and if they don't, this is another end date where it could end early. And then subsection from subdivision 6, after November 1, 2028, the owner of the plant shall report annually to the department, and the department shall verify the overall efficiency of the plant for the prior 12-month period. If the efficiency falls below the efficiency requirement, the report shall include a plan to return the plant to the required efficiency within 1 year. If after implementing the plan in subdivision 6, the owner of the plant did not achieve the efficiency requirement, the department shall request the commission terminate the obligation under this section. And so you will recall that subsection D, after 2028, that is when the new rate will be set. So it seems like it trails off there, but the language earlier is about the PUC starting the rate determination case and setting the new rate for Rygate after 2028.
Okay.
So if you have 4.6 in front of you, so there's also section 34. Senate Natural Resources voted to take out section 34, but I still think you should be aware of it.
Is this the change they made?
Yes, this is the change that they made at 11:31 a.m. yesterday. So it's section 34. And potentially this does not have to be changed this year, but I mentioned this rate that was set in 2011. It's in session law. It's in an order issued by the PUC that was set to end under that order in 2022. So in 2022, this language was added as a session law provision that says all decisions and orders of the former Public Service Board and the Public Utility Commission in the matter investigation into an establishment of a standard offer price for baseload renewable power under the sustainably priced energy enterprise development program, docket number 7782.
Is that the rule you just mentioned?
It's an order.
But that's the one that set the rate.
Yeah. Okay. Shall remain in full force and effect through October 31, and it currently expires in 2026. So I proposed extending it to 2028 to match what the language will now say. And also go on to say for years 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, 27, and the period from January 1, 2028 to October 1, 2028, the purchase price shall be the levelized value determined in docket number 7782. The Senate Natural Resources Committee decided to take this provision out. Rygate did technically not ask for this because the deadline for expiration isn't until next year. So you technically don't have to change it this year.
But we would have to change it next year.
Yeah.
And this section essentially just sets down in statute what currently exists in Porter.
No. No,
Sorry, I missed the thread on this.
so in 2012, the PUC issued this order number 7782 that set the Rygate rate.
Right.
And the order says it was set to expire in 2022. So it was from 2012 to 2022. And they would need to do legally a new rate determination case to change that rate or update that order. So the legislature added a session law provision, essentially overriding it or giving them authority to extend it for these additional years until they do a new rate determination case. This is like very technical legal stuff, but it's the extension of the rate that the PUC set in 2012.
Do we have any idea why Senate Natural Resources took this out? What the discussion was about that?
There was some disagreement about whether to include any of this language at all. So they
You can ask
voted to
them.
remove one section instead of both.
Okay,
Yeah. Brett Marl.
Be done with this last sentence. I wanna make sure I understand the avoided thoughts language in the beginning.
Okay,
Your favorite?
this is very technical. Yeah,
It's top of page 65.
do you have a question?
Yeah, what does it mean?
Sure, so, when the PUC sets rates generally for any type of electricity, they base that rate on the avoided cost. Avoided cost is a set formula that takes into account a number of things. If you want to look at the statute at 8009, it sets out the 8 elements that the PUC needs to take into account when determining the avoided cost. There is federal law on what goes into setting a rate, including the avoided cost and how that's defined. So there are specific parameters that the PUC is required to consider as part of that, and limitations on other things that they're not allowed to consider as part of that. Now, I can only read you the list. This is something I am not super well versed in, but I do know that there's case law on it that says to some extent that the PUC is preempted by federal law to what they are allowed to include in this rate determination. There is also language in subsection E, which is not in the draft before you because it's not changing, but it is other things that the PUC may or may not consider when doing the rate determination. And it does specifically say that the PUC shall not consider the capital investments and operating costs of the efficiency project in making the rate determination. So if you have questions on how avoided cost is calculated, I do suggest you hear from the PUC. The department could also probably speak to it, but they do avoided cost calculations pretty regularly.
Yeah, Brett Bailey and
You have the list?
It's posted under my name. On the website. It's in section 8009, subsection D and E. And I did have Jack posted under my name if you want to look at it. Or you could find it on the website. Yeah.
It has at the end of the similar, the same generation technology. If this is the only
Right.
biomass production that's independently owned, nobody's building any more of them in the state. Where does the same technology come in and calculating the avoided cost? And maybe we can get that by reviewing the 8 sections of the 8 charts of sections. And that's,
Well, I would actually suspect that it's more related to other facilities located outside the state if a utility was seeking to purchase from the market or from another facility outside the
from
state.
another biogeneration facility located in Tyson.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't have permission, Madam Chair.
No, you're,
Do you have any idea what we're talking about for the numbers of efficiency? My question based if you had something running at 60% efficiency, 50% of that's 30, got to get to 90. That seems pretty high stretch. If you were running, on the other hand, at 40%, you only have to get to 60.
I think it's lower than
Lower than that.
yes.
And
I have a number in my head, but I was trying to find it last night and I don't know what it is. I think you could ask Rygate or the department what their known efficiency is. Yeah.
okay,
But less than, I would say less than 40.
we'll let we'll let them come in.
Yeah.
It's the thermal energy, not the electricity. It's the whole gamut of total energy.
Yeah.
AI says its efficiency is 23%.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Who said that?
AI,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought it was some government organization that acted.
No, but I do think I think it was part of their testimony in prior years, and I was looking to see if I could find it this week, and I didn't find it yet, but I think it was part of prior testimony they brought to the legislature.
Unfortunately, when you're burning wood, you're boiling a lot of water. And that, hence, the efficiency. So I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
okay, so where do we go from here? So I will definitely be checking with you and Betsy Ann and anybody and everybody who knows when we can expect to see this on the floor. But it sounds like we have a decent amount of time, so that's really good. Rygate's coming on Tuesday, and Jack, that's confirmed, right?
I'm still waiting to hear back.
Okay, Matt said they could come. So,
Okay.
oh, Rep Campbell?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there has been any independent analysis of the impact of closing the plant on Vermont's logging or forestry industry. That seems like an important part of this. I mean, there's certainly value in having baseload power, but it seems like the driving force is really the forestry industry.
So for testimony, and that's what I wanted to make sure we talk about before we go into the floor, since we're not meeting again today. So for testimony, we've invited Rygate. Obviously, they're coming in on Tuesday. We invited both the PUC and DPS, and everybody's at a conference Monday through Wednesday. So I was concerned, but now we have time. So I think, Jack, can you reach out and just rearrange our schedule, however we need to rearrange our schedule, to tell Director Core and whoever the department is sending that we will make it our priority to hear from them on Thursday? Because they're all at some conference. And they don't get back till Monday. TJ said he could pop on super quick Tuesday on the phone, but I don't think that's what we're looking for. And then we reached out to Forest Parks and Rec, and they're coming. Right, Jack?
Yep.
And then we have a logger.
Yeah.
Daniel, I think it's his name.
He's in
The
charge.
plant operator.
Charging them.
Or is he?
Sure.
Yeah, so.
I'm sure Jack will be there.
So if we're missing witnesses that folks need to hear from or want to hear from, now's definitely the time, and Jack can try and get stuff lined up for.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking about. So I don't know, maybe Commerce, somebody from ACCD or something, some sort of economic analysis of if the plant closed, what would the impact be?
So you did that, yes. So you've asked for a number of reports about Reigate in the last few years. So in 2022, ACCD, in consultation with the Department of Forest Parks and Rec, did issue a report on the contingency scenarios about the economic impacts if the plant were to close. And so that is from March of 2022, and I can get you that if you would like to see it. There is also a report on. There was asked a report evaluating the decommissioning fund that exists for Reigate. Should they close? What decommissioning funds are currently available to support that decommissioning? What year is that? That was from 2023. And then there was also a required report on the fuel prices, the wood prices that Reigate is paying. And so the Department of Forest Parks and Rec was to calculate fair market price for wood and assess. So the department was looking at what would be the fair price and looking at different cost ranges and equipment types. And Reigate is currently required to report, I believe, quarterly on the prices they're paying to the loggers as well. And then there was also a report on if the memorandum of understanding regarding Reigate's harvesting policy for wood procurement needed to be updated to have best practices. So we did look at a number of different components of them from in the 2022 legislation.
Yeah, great. If you could forward those to us, Ellen, that would be great.
All of this reports to the full committee.
Sure.
Thank you, Ellen.
I just want to just back up what Representative Tingle said, that we need that information because it is a vital part of the economy in that area.
Yeah.
And the loggers especially, they use that for less marketable wood to bring that, and that's part of the industry as a whole there. I think it's really important for them to take that into consideration.
I agree. Yeah, sorry, you're behind. I have my knee out.
And I'm not exactly sure. There are two entities that I'm thinking about. One is Dana Durant, who reps the loggers here. He could get him to testify virtually or in person. And then Gwen Zakoff represents another, it's not even those, but I'll have to check it first. There's two other folks in the economy. The other thing I would just note.
Wait, before you go on, sorry,
Yes.
can you please send those names and contact things to Jack and copy me because I'm trying to keep witnesses.
Yes, I will. And I don't know if the utilities will one way or see important as just wanted one of them. But I do want to note, having been involved in those in the requests of those many of those legislative reports, they're really, I'm very interested in us reviewing them. I would also say we are in a very different economy in this moment, although I don't, so it'd be interesting to hear. It'd be great if those can get posted sooner rather than later for a reflection by folks about how they would reflect current.
So I don't think we had, except for the dome tour, which is only going to take an hour. But that's on Wednesday anyway with DPS campaign. So I don't think there was anything on our schedule next week that was, well, certainly not as important as this. I mean, this is work we need to do now. So we will move folks to the final week of the session or just cancel them because the final week of the session committee probably won't be meeting. I'll try to keep the dome tour. Yeah, I know. It's only an hour. But we will try to get everybody in that folks want to hear from. And then at some point, we'll know when the bill's coming to the floor. We'll know when we're going to schedule our straw poll. We'll know whether our committee wants to, any members of our committee want to bring an amendment. And then at some point, we'll have to have the decision about and I don't feel at all informed to make this decision right now about the impact of the underlying bill. You know, at this point in the session, we do have to think about, okay, if we do this or that, what does that do to the underlying bill? Maybe nothing. I don't know, but we'll have to take that into consideration with only 2 weeks left in the session at some point, but I don't think we need to do that now. I think we need to hear from our witnesses. So I guess if you think of somebody we need to hear from, let's try to get that done quickly because Jack will be off vegetable farming next week. And we need to make sure that we have the committee support we need, and it'd be good to get folks at least invited today. All right. Thanks, everybody. This is interesting. A new topic. I don't know too much about writing.
And it is interesting.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. We can go off live.